Alright, what's up YouTube? The John Vanderveer here. Today we are going to talk about the so-called human condition. And we are going to discuss a law of the human condition, a characteristic of the human condition that I have called the Law of Unobservable Phenomenon. So how we're going to discuss this is we're going to do it in three ways. First, I'm going to give you an example to demonstrate how it works, to kind of illustrate how it works. Then we'll get to a technical definition, and finally we will analyze some of the implications. Alright, so to start off with, let's picture a melody. It can be your favorite song. Go ahead and take out the words and just picture the notes. Each individual note is a phenomena. If you can hear the note, it is observable. If you cannot, it is unobservable. When notes get very low or very high in pitch, they become harder to hear. Some people, in fact, can hear notes that others cannot. A young person will be able to hear certain notes that may be out of the hearing range of an older person. In fact, some notes, no matter how healthy, young, well-trained your ear is, some notes the human ear simply cannot hear. Dog whistles, for example, play a note that a dog can hear, but humans cannot. Before certain scientific developments, say the advent of the dog whistle, a person might reasonably contend that unhearable notes do not exist because they cannot be proven to exist. Another person might contend that they do exist, reasonably so. A skeptic might reasonably ask, if we have no knowledge or information, how can we have evidence? And let's go ahead and define reasonability as something done with evidence. The person who asserted that the unhearable notes do exist would respond that there is an explanatory pattern which can be noticed to explain all the observable notes, and that pattern would lead to a logical conclusion that other notes do exist. So the evidence in this case would be the explanatory pattern. So therefore we draw the distinction in evidence between physical, empirical evidence, and kind of abstract thought, that sort of evidence, such as logic and whatnot. So a reasonable skeptic might say, I have an alternative explanatory pattern, which does also explain all observable phenomena, and it leads to the logical conclusion that either unhearable notes do not exist, or unhearable notes may exist but not necessarily so. So till here, both people are reasonable. The problem is who's right. Because both of their explanatory patterns and ideas are reasonable, but they lead to different conclusions. So they could both be right, they could both be wrong, or one person could be right and the other wrong. Until each theory is proven or disproven, proponents of each theory may be said to have hope in the truth of their theory. This is a reason why a thing like hope can be deemed as reasonable. When one theory is proven true, it is a terrible misuse of Occam's razor to claim that the other is false. Could be that both theories are true. It does not matter if one is simpler and the other more complex. If they are essentially different theories with an essentially different meaning and essentially different implications, Occam's razor may not be used. So let's say the skeptic's theory, based on observable evidence, is proved true. However, let's say that the second remaining theory, the theory that unhearable notes exist, is not disproven. Ceteris paribus, is still reasonable to believe the unproven theory. The truth of one does not imply an unreasonability of believing the unproven theory. And let's keep in mind now that the only thing that's changed is the theory that's proven may now imply a proof or disproof of the remaining theory. The remaining theory being the idea that unhearable notes may exist. And this is really just a metaphor. So let's continue further. What if the remaining theory is shown not only to be outside the realm of proof by observation, In fact, it is also proved, hypothetically, let us say, we're moving away from the metaphor of sound now, Let us say that it's beyond even the human function of reasoning to prove the remaining theory. This could be an issue like the Heisenberg uncertainty principle, when in fact we have logically proved that there are things beyond our ability to know. We may know this, and if we know this, we cannot determine the other, or we can determine the other and we may not know this. That's Heisenberg uncertainty principle we're talking about. All right, so let's recall that human reason, like observation, is merely a function of our imperfect human condition and is just as subject to the law of unobservable phenomena as the human function of hearing. So just like I said with the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. At this point, let's go ahead and define the law of unobservable phenomena. It states that for any individual or collection of observers with an imperfect function, there will always be phenomena which may not be observed by them. This is speaking both to the functions of empirical observation and also to the function of human reason, because human reason, also a function of a human, is also subject to the law of unobservable phenomena, which implies there may be things, true or false, that you not only will not know if they are true or false, in fact, you are actually incapable of even considering these things. For example, in the old, ancient Greek or Egyptian civilization, they never would have thought of things about like tachyons, for example. They were just outside the realm of their even consideration. I'm not saying that human beings cannot progress in their understanding. I'm saying that at any given point, there are certain things they will not understand. They may come to understand them later, but at any given point, there are certain things they will not be even capable of contemplating.